Welcome to Conty Chat. My name is Diana Hashim. I'm your host for today, and it is going to be a very, very fascinating conversation. The topic of the day is it's a man's world. Yeah, I sing it really badly, but either ways, in all seriousness, it is something that we all have to touch base for the older generation, current generation, newer generation. We need to understand what women have experienced in terms of the challenges that they go through in their careers. Now, if you want to catch our previous episodes for Conty Chat, remember you can find it on RTM Click or even on podcast.rtm.gov.my. But for now, allow me to introduce my very, very lovely guest today. I've got Audrey Lowe, who's an electrical contractor, and we've got Wachla Naidu, a human rights activist, as well as an executive director for the Center for Independent Journalism. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for coming today. Well, it's an absolute pleasure having you now, because I think we have sort of like gotten to know each other a little bit prior to getting this recording started, and each of us go through very, very different experiences in our own respective industries. But basically, to sum up as the whole topic at hand, women are now present in practically every single industry, and the best part is we're breaking barriers, we're making waves, we are being seen, and we are doing really, really well at whatever it is that we strive to do. But then it used to not be the case, because it used to be very male dominated in certain industries, and it's changing with women entering such fields. But then this is probably due to the fact where a lot of companies are being more exposed to gender equality, for example, or some women have, some female employees have the more willingness and confidence in entering into an industry that they don't really feel like that they feel it's more male dominated. But then from the world's perspective, you have successful career women that are still considered underrepresented, and we have to continue to focus on the obstacles as well, like I mentioned, and the issues that career women face at work. And both of you are currently in industries where I must say that it is quite a bit of an interesting situation. But let's start off with Audrey. You are an electrical contractor. Could you tell us a little bit more about your experiences that is mostly dominated by men?
Well, to be very honest, it is very challenging because when I first joined, it's family business, so I kind of absorbed into it. So I went in at 21 years old. It's not like it's a choice, okay? It wasn't an option to begin with. At 21, my mom was like, girl, come in. I think it's about time that you learn the trades, and then we'll see where we go from there. So at 21, I went in, still in college. Like summer break, whatever break, you're just gonna jump in. So when I first went in, the challenges are, people were like, who is this girl who's coming in for meetings? So mom was like, that's my daughter, I wanted to learn, right? And mom made it very clear, like, I'm only taking you for meetings, for client meetings, but anything that's work related, you got to follow the rest of the team. So I went in there, first thing was look at accounts, open the books, and like, what am I looking at? and then follow the QS, go understand cables, go understand meters, go, because we build power stations and street lights and all that. I'm like, what am I looking at again? And it's challenging because you have to wear so many hats. First, you got to be a QS, you got to understand tender, you got to understand what your client needs, you understand product, you got to understand government rulings, TNB, JKR, all of that. And I have to follow different divisions, different departments, right? And I'm like, wow. And this is just general in office, but blue-collar workers as well. When you go to site visits, right? And they'll be like, who is this girl again? So it is very challenging because generally, I think there's probably 5% of women.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, when I attend meetings, this is personal experience, right? When I attend meeting with my office, it's just 3 women at most, and the rest of the table are men.
Wow.
And here we are talking about, what's the BQ, what are the items required, and the first thing, of course, most meetings, your clients will go like, no VO. I mean, there's no variation order. So we're like coming back and then, okay, different hats again, like, how many cables do we need? How much do we need? Timeline, and then is it realistic, unrealistic? Who's the main con? Who's the engineers? And things are like that. And they're like, what do we need to do? Who do we need to connect to? And every project is different. But because the nature of the business, I mean, we are very grateful and thankful that we have regular clients. These are all clients that's been around forever. So it's always the same face. But we're also at the stage where like myself helping mom in the business, it's the same as clients as well. There's the next generation's taking over. So the challenges are always like, okay, so this was the legacy way of doing business. How do we do it now as well? So it is constant learning. There's no theory, it's practice. It's practical. It's just all about going straight in. Don't go in with expectation. That's all I can say.
It's like you were being thrown in the deep end without being prepared. Just like, here you go, Audrey, splash.
No, you're challenged. You're literally challenging the space.
It is, and mom has made it very clear. Like, girl, I'm not gonna hold your hand and walk you through. It's just you just gotta learn, because it's the same as her. Because when she took over the business from my late grandfather, she was just threw right into the deep end, and she said the only way to learn is to work with the rest of the people in the office, not with her, because she runs a business. So if you ask me the challenges, it's like every corner is a new challenge.
Like, surprise!
I know.
Wow.
I know. Yeah.
It's actually really it's insane how what you have experienced basically is something that not a lot of people in the younger generation will probably have, because I feel as though things are a little bit easier these days for some youngsters, and what you went through, it's kind of like you have to do every single thing. You have to understand and learn to communicate with different people. I mean, I'm gonna say this. I mean, can call me biased, but I think mostly only women can do this sort of job, in that sense. So that in that aspect, to be that versatile, definitely. But I'm gonna move forward to Wachla now. In your perspective, and based on what Audrey had mentioned as well, how can we change how society see women? I mean, based on what she had experienced as well, so that they're valued and respected in traditionally male-dominated professions.
I think first of all we need to understand our own biases. Every one of us come with stereotypes, prejudices, and most of these are of course already informed by misogyny, by the patriarchal system. So if I look and what has changed, it's not the biases or the prejudice, it's how we interpret these biases. So for example, in the past I would have looked and say, hey, there are not enough women with the right skills. Now we say they have the right skills, but still still a woman. Is she going to still be able to do the job? What about the care role that's needed, what the child rearing role that's needed? That perception hasn't changed, right? Access to opportunities are there, but there are all these barriers. And then the next thing is, I think we need to look at the disparity, the discrimination and inequality in different ways. Women are also not homogeneous, right? We are all very different. We have so many different hats, and we need to always acknowledge the intersectionality. So my experiences are not just because I'm a woman, right? My experiences are also because I'm an Indian woman, right? My color of skin has an influence in how I'm regarded in any kind of workspace, and then my nationality, depending if I'm I've had certain opportunities of engaging with working with the UN mechanisms and systems, so that had an impact. And then the other thing is, I think we all need to recognize our privileges, right? And this is something we don't talk enough. So when we have women ministers at time coming and say, let's talk on merit, let's talk on this, it doesn't work, because there are only certain number of women with the space, the opportunities on the basis of our own privilege. I mean, Audrey, you had that opportunity. I had the opportunity too. I mean, I'm born in KL, I'm already living in the city. I can speak English, right? That's already my privilege. I think we need the society to acknowledge that women are different, right? And the way we look at discrimination is very different. So society needs to change their minds, right?
Yeah.
And it's not going to be easy.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, that's all. That all boils down to the basis of education and what people understand. And you're right. I think it's in that aspect. It's like there's the lack of empathy to understand, to look at someone's perspective, look into someone else's life and be like, okay, yes, that person did have it better because of this, but then you don't look to yourself within yourself and say, actually, I do have privileges myself. And there are some people who experience way worse and who just are completely left behind in this particular scenario. But I mean, I think in that aspect, Wachla, how do you feel what are some of the ways that we can do to make that change?
this is multiple, because
Yeah.
if we start with privilege, right, and privilege is not negative, right? Privilege also means that you've had opportunity. It's how do you transfer the opportunity forward, right? How are you able to reimagine equality? I mean, your mom could have just said, hey, go do something else, right?
Yeah.
Like, I went through all this, and why I don't want my daughter to go through this, but she's been able to break past the barrier, and I'm so appreciative and so respectful of your mom for breaking that, and for you to wanting to be there too, right? So that requires a larger societal change in how we perceive all this. But then on the other end of the spectrum is also what, you know, the employers, right, have a huge role, the organizations before us. I mean, they need to know that systems and policies will have to change, right? We talk about inequalities, not just about hiring policies, it's also about, you know, opportunities within the organization, looking at pay, looking at different roles that you might have, you know, promotion and so. But, you know, largely it's the state.
Yeah.
The government will have to put in the necessary policies. If they don't push the employers, they're not going to care, right? Why do I have to, you know, prioritize the human aspect of, you know, the work over my profit?
Yep.
So it's going to require a lot of structures in place,
Yep.
a lot of unpacking things that we've inherited over centuries.
Generational
actually,
trauma at its best.
It's 2023.
Yeah.
We're still talking about it.
Yeah, it's quite madness. Thanks so much
Yeah.
for your input, Watchla. But we'll be right back. We're going to take a really short break. I'm speaking to Audrey Low and also Watchla Naidu, and we're talking about the subject matter that what women go through when it comes to their careers. Despite, it doesn't matter which industry that they are in, it can be a man's world, but how do we maneuver it? So we'll be right back.
Keperluan kaum wanita, terutamanya mereka yang terpaksa berhenti bekerja selepas tempoh cuti bersalin untuk menjaga anak-anak. Bagi menggalakkan wanita kembali bekerja, Perkeso akan meminda aktanya untuk membolehkan pemberian geran bersamaan 80% daripada nilai gaji yang diinsurансkan pekerja. Dianggarkan lebih 130,000 wanita yang kembali bekerja selepas bersalin akan mendapat manfaat daripada geran ini, melibatkan dana keseluruhannya RM290 juta. Saya menyeru supaya majikan memainkan peranan dan turut bertanggungjawab menyediakan pusat jagaan kanak-kanak di pejabat.
Welcome back to Conty Chat. We're still with Audrey Low and Watchla Naidu, and we're talking about the subject matter that every woman go through when it comes to their careers. Some of the challenges and obstacles, especially if the industry that they're working it's a man's world, so to speak. Now, I'm going back to Audrey because she is an electrical contractor, and based on your experience you've had, and it sounds like there was a lot that you went through. What did you enjoy the least, or is there something that really surprised you about the role when you first started?
Well, because when I first started, there's nothing much to expect, because I didn't know what to expect at 21, right? Just go to college and all that. But as of today, the least enjoyable part, collection.
Wait, you mean monetary collection? Is that
Yes. Simply because in our line of business, we roll our business up front first, because you have to get a job done, then you collect. But that's why it's least exciting, simply because we are rolling the business. We have to pay suppliers. And like, hey, it's due. But it always happens that it gets delayed. And
I'm gonna ask this question, and I don't know if you're gonna answer it or not, but like, has there ever been an experience where you had a late payment because of a sense of discrimination in that aspect, because you are a woman?
No. To be very honest.
Okay, good.
Absolutely not in that context. Delay payment, it happens simply because payment are delayed, or it's our endless public holidays. But it happens. But it is not detrimental either. But it's just calling like, hey, it's due for payment.
Understandable. I mean, I'm glad in that aspect then I mean, you've managed to maneuver yourself in this industry, and you already, because after how many years of being in that with, guided by your mom as well, and I mean, kudos, auntie, well done. I think at the end of the day, it's great to know that the challenge that you face right now is not so much as the factor that you have been put in a difficult spot being a woman at the end of it. But Wachla, in your opinion, what are the key barriers that actually prevent working women from achieving the same rights and opportunities as working men?
There are, of course, the systemic barriers, right? The way our policies work. I think we have very little support in terms of our policy with regards to childcare, right? With regards to how we look at not just maternity. We've got good maternity leave, but not good paternity leave. That means the concept of shared responsibility hasn't really sunk in here in Malaysia. And all this is because, as we said, the biases, the stereotypes are still there in terms of the role of women, right? Where do you fit in? Everything can change, of course, but some of our reproductive functions don't change. But we haven't caught up with times on how to deal with this, right? This should not be a barrier. So policies will really have to change as well. There are also instances, I think, in our own workspaces, right, where sexual harassment is real. Right, and that causes also certain challenges and risks for women, and holds women back. And I've talked to a number of journalists who are on the ground, and one of the biggest challenges they experience is sexual harassment, right? And that means that they then have to rethink some of their career options as well. Then we have at the larger, I think and this I take back to our own personal choices, right? Our personal choices are influenced by all these barriers, and we hold ourselves back. Many people, I mean, as I said, we have had the opportunity to break these barriers, but many other women out there have not had this opportunity, and because there are historical elements of discrimination that they have faced and continues to hold people back. Can all other women have the same opportunities and access and experience same level of equality? I mean, to be fair to Malaysian government over the last few years, they've had some really good plans, right? Even some of our, security commission's requirement now for publicly listed companies to have at least 30%. We're almost there. We're at 29 something. It's there, right? But the larger political context hasn't changed, right? Out of 222 parliamentarians, how many do we have? 28 women parliamentarians. Out of cabinet ministers, we have like 5 cabinet ministers. We are below 20%. If the top doesn't change, it's not going to influence our policies. If policies don't change, companies are not going to influence. It impacts us too.
Wow, it's so. I love how you have basically broke everything down in a way that I hope a lot of people will eventually understand this. And it is we need to be introspective, and you're absolutely right. We have to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves in that sense. But I feel like we could totally talk about this conversation for a really long time. But moving forward though, but in that sense, with the different kind of mindsets that we need to change, you feel like, how, based on what you had experienced, do you feel like there is a shift that needs to be done in your industry?
I truly believe it's just truly mindset. I mean, regardless of gender, right? I mean, clearly my mom has took on the role many years ago, and then I'm in the picture now. Men generally do respect us. They really do, because actually they are very simple. You just need to produce, you need to deliver, and that's all that really matters. Because of course, when they see you very young and when you're a woman, the truth is there will be some skepticism. That's the reality. But they do not look down on us. So from my industry, on my side, I think they are going very well. And of course we will have a few here and there, but that's what it truly is.
How do you overcome those challenges if you were to encounter those who are in that box?
Truly, there's no answer to this. You just have to roll up the sleeve, soldier on, just toughen up, because that's what it really is. Because the contractors, the blue workers, they are not nasty people. They are just rough and tough guys. And as a lady, you just gotta be at par with them. That's it. That they are truly that. You know, you can't discriminate someone because of how they are or how they behave. So truly just roll up the sleeve, walk in, just be like, hey, we are all in here to do the same job, to complete the job for our client. That's it. So they are truly nothing to say that there's, I mean, in everything, in every industry there's a challenges, you know, truly. It's the same book, different chapter, different storyline.
Different day.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what it truly is.
I mean, I like that. It's soldiering on, and I think there are moments in time where sometimes you might think that, oh, I can get through to that person because, you know, we tend to be a lot more nurturing in that aspect. We want to try to find that middle ground rather than going like, I have to speak at your level to like, or not even level, but like in terms of the style of speaking has to match yours so that you know that I'm in business. But it's really interesting that that it's like soldiering on is and always will be one of those things that women have to endure and experience in their workspace. Wachla, how can we ensure like is there any way that we can increase the representation of women in leadership positions across industries? I think because that was one of the things that you had mentioned earlier on.
Most definitely. When there's a will, there's a way, right? And I really love it, Audrey, when you say you shoulder up, right? Because I think we've started doing this. We've challenged the status quo, being in spaces or industries that are predominantly men. And that's like, you know, it's like one step at a time, basically. You're chiseling away the rocks, right? You're creating the space, you're challenging, you know, the challenging and going against the norm. I think that's on us. I think more and more the call out is, you know, we can do it, you know, nothing should be holding us back. And of course, you know, then we look at what are some really, really practical measures, right? Heading an organization now, I realize that the organization will need to take the lead. You don't wait for your team to ask you, you know, why is it that I don't have these leads? Why? What can the organization do if I need support? I need to be away. You know, I've got elderly parents, and these are real things that happens every day, right? Parents, you know, I need to take care of. You know, I need to. I've got my own health problems. How do I? So, as organization, we need to make sure the policies, you know, actually are proactive, are constructive, are substantive, and it can address. And the other thing I really truly believe in terms of addressing the disparities is affirmative action, right? An affirmative action to start like from the, you know, from get-go in terms of your hiring policy, basically. You know, you cannot put out ads saying that I want, you know, men. I think people have
female
stopped.
Only, this language only.
Yeah, exactly. Don't go by looks. Don't go by, you know, age. Don't go by how much they were paid in the past. So those affirmative and I mean that's not really an affirmative action. That's more of a non-discrimination policy. But what happens if, you know, if you have an affirmative action? If we say we need to have more women in our organization, then what if there are not enough women with the right skill? Then you start a training program. You know,
that's right.
Do the vocational training.
Absolutely.
You build up the new generation. The excuses are always going to be there, but you know, we have to break that excuses. And then I think organizations of a particular size should always create the space, right, for childcare and also for pets. I don't understand why people don't have space for pets. Really,
being a parent is a real thing. But
so different things can be done. As I said earlier, right, it has to come from a policy level, organizational level, society, and us.
All right. Well, okay. Before we wrap things up, though, like really quickly, I do want to ask Audrey, like, you know, I mean, I know, there's so many things that I would love to, like, you know, dissect your brain with, basically. But Audrey, is there any advice that you'd like to share to women who are listening in, perhaps whatever age, that are brave enough to break into a role that they might think is against the norm? What kind of advice would you give them?
I think we just need to stop worrying too much because there's no job that, I mean, look, men are also in fashion industry, right? It's supposedly the women's industry. So just break the stereotype, just roll up your sleeve, just do what makes you happy. But if you want to break into where I am, I can tell you very honestly, it's character building. But I'm telling you, when you're in my shoe, and then you realize how strong as a woman you can truly be. I mean, there are many industries that, you know, that there's a lot of challenges, but you want to face it really hard, working, like literally blue collar, go into construction, and you realize whether you can hack this or not. So I'll just say, go in with an open mind. Just break the stereotype and say, hey, I'm just here to do my job, and show them that what you're made of.
Yeah,
You can
I
do it.
completely agree.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today.
Thank
I
you.
really do wish that we had more time together. But yes, this is a Conty Chat. You know, we've got brand new episodes every week, and I think this is something that I hope you have managed to, like, you have actually taken in some really great advice, great stories as well, like how we have Audrey Lowe and also Wachla Naidu. And I do hope that you catch our episodes again. We're online, we're on RTM Click as well. So I'll catch you soon. My name's Diana Hashim. Bye.